Welcome to the Big Ingersöll Show.
Welcome everybody to the second episode of the Book Club. This one's for all you bookworms out there. These are very short episodes that I do where I read a few passages from some of my favorite books that I truly enjoy. You can get this book by clicking the link in the show notes, the podcast description, and it'll take you to Amazon. This book is Discipline Equals Freedom. Field Manual by Jocko Willink. And this book you really do have to get in the print edition because it is one of those books that is very visual, and I don't even think there's an audio version available. So I'm going to read a couple passages out of this and talk about it a little bit, and that's about it. So let's get into it. Page 30. Fight. Go down swinging, and I'll tell you. If you fight with all you have, more often than not, you won't go down at all. You will win. But you have to make that attitude a part of your everyday life. Do the extra repetition. Run the extra mile. Go the extra round. Make the right choices. Give the full measure. Make yourself stronger, mentally and physically. Stand and fight. Fight against weakness, against fear, against time, and against decay. Fight back. Go down swinging. Give every day everything you got. And when you face a challenge, even something you don't believe you can win, or a situation where you know you cannot win, remember this. You have nothing to lose. So, stand up. Go forward. Go out in a blaze of glory, fighting with everything you got. Every ounce of energy, every bead of sweat, every drop of blood until your last breath. And then, and only then, can you stand down, put down your sword and your shield, and rest in peace. This is my favorite one of the book. The background image is particularly interesting. It's Jocko either stuffing a takedown or going in for an arm-in guillotine is kind of what it looks like, actually, which is a little bit of jiu-jitsu, which I patently enjoy. So I like this one for a ton of reasons. It's one of those things where you read it and it just gets you fired up, right? I mean, it's stand and fight. It's possibly one of the best motivational passages in this book. And it is something that I tell myself all the time. It's all about that internal dialogue, right? Do the extra repetition and make the right choices. Stand up and go forward. You know, what he says here is when you're faced with a situation that you know you're not going to win, remember this. You got nothing to lose. And I like that too, right? I mean, unless you are literally fighting for your life, you don't have that much to lose. It's gonna be fine. Don't be scared, homie. It's all good. So I do like this one. It just kind of gets me pumped up. And it's very classically Jocko. Page 34. Default aggressive. Proactive and aggressive are similar, and they are both good. You certainly have to be proactive in the world. You want to be dictating what happens, not responding to it. And yes, that means creating or controlling a situation as much as you can. But being aggressive means that you are ready to attack. As I always point out, this doesn't mean you walk around with your chest puffed out, ready to bang heads with everybody around you. It doesn't mean you confront people, physically or mentally, head on and without a tactically superior plan. It doesn't mean you go straight forward into conflict without thought and without reason. It doesn't mean you engage in attrition warfare. No, that is almost never smart. What it does mean is you're going to get after it. You are going to move fast. You are going to think fast. You're going to outthink and outmaneuver the enemy. If I think the enemy is going to attack me, I'm going to attack them first. If I think they're going to seize a piece of terrain, I'm going to be there waiting for them. If I think the enemy is going to flank me, too late. I'm already flanking them. I don't view aggression as an outward attitude. I view aggression as an internal character trait. A fire in your mind that says, I am going to win. I'm going to battle, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to use every tool I have to crush my enemy. And that tool might be fists, but it might be guile. It might be a frontal attack, but it might be a flanking maneuver. It might be an undeniable display of force, but it also might be a subtle political maneuver. And that is what aggression is to me. The unstoppable fighting spirit, the drive, the burning desire to achieve mission success using every possible tool, asset, and strategy and tactic to bring about victory. It is the will to win. And if that kind of internal, relentless aggression is your default mode, you will win. In true Jocko form, this passage talks a little bit about mindset. And there's several things that I like about the default aggressive mindset. The first thing is, basically, it's saying just be prepared to attack. Don't respond to the things that come across to you. Dictate and control all of the situations in your life to the greatest extent possible. And the best way that you can do that is to see things coming and understand the strategy and tactics you're going to need to employ, the tools that you have at your disposal to deal with those circumstances. And what Jocko says here is those might be fists. They might be a subtle political maneuver. Whatever it is, understand what is best for that situation and plan for it. And there's so many things that I like about this. The default aggressive mindset also means if something is happening in your life, you need to aggressively attack the problem. It could be a vice that you have, a habit, something you haven't gotten done, a goal you haven't reached. And the best way to accomplish those things is to be default aggressive. Page 76, the darkness. The sun doesn't shine every day. The storms will come. There are times when the nights will be long and dark and you will be alone. There will be times when the darkness seems to consume everything. But don't let it consume you. Don't let it consume you. Even in the darkest times, even in the strongest storms, even when the sun is blotted out and the world is falling apart, the darkness cannot extinguish your light. You, your will, your determination. No matter what is happening, no matter how hard the fight is, as long as you keep fighting, you win. Only surrender is defeat. Only quitting is the end, because the darkness only wins if you let it. Do not let the darkness win. Fight. Fight on. To fight against the darkness is to win. So, the reason I wanted to read this passage is that this is sort of Jocko's way of talking about depression without explicitly stating that that's what he's talking about. And for anybody out there who's ever had a really tough situation to deal with in life, which is probably the majority of you, it's one of those things that is tough. And especially with depression, and if anybody out there has had themselves or a close family member or friend or loved one or anyone who suffered from depression, it can be absolutely paralyzing. It can be a thing that you don't see. The darkness is something that you don't see, especially inside somebody else. If somebody has a broken leg, you can tell. Right? They're hobbling around, they got a big cast on, and if their brain is injured, if there's the darkness of depression seeping into their mind, you can't see it. And because you can't see it, it's harder to recognize, and it's harder to help, and it's harder to understand, and it's harder to fix. The solution is not easy. And what Jocko's saying here is the storm will pass. Right? It's a pretty common thing that is said, but it's very powerful. You have to keep fighting on. There's no reason to let the darkness take over the light. There just isn't one. Period. And I know that sounds dumb. And I know if you're feeling depressed and you're listening to this, I know how that sounds because I've also been depressed in that way. There might not even be a reason for it. Look, if you've lost a loved one or something bad has happened, being down and being depressed and living in the darkness is totally normal. That is a normal human response to a stimulus. But when there is no stimulus and there's still darkness, that's a bigger problem. That is where you have to realize that there is light inside of you and there is no reason to let the darkness take over. And this passage from Jocko talks a little bit about that. To fight against the darkness is to win. Page 88. Laughter wins. Sure, there is darkness everywhere, and I have seen my share. But that is not where I live my life at all. In fact, the opposite is true. I am not wandering around suffering in despair. No, I am having fun. Fun. I'm laughing, I am joking, I'm clowning around, making fun of everything and everyone, and especially of myself. I'm an easy target to poke fun at. And I'm good with that. Because sure, life is tough, but it gets a lot easier when you're laughing at it all. So, despite the suffering, in fact, to spite the suffering, to spite the hardships, to spite the challenges, laugh at them all. They can't stand it when you do. And they all get easier. Yes, laugh at them all. Laughter wins. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably understand that I do tend to chuckle a lot. And I try not to do that as much. But having fun is important in life. And not taking yourself too seriously is equally important. And that matters all over the place. That matters especially if you're on the jiu-jitsu mat. It matters when you're talking to your business partners, employees, loved ones, family, etc. You have to be able to laugh at everything and everyone, and especially at yourself. And that line, especially at yourself, I think is the most important line of this passage, because it's saying you don't want to be that asshole, right? That's just going around and, just hating on everybody, spitting a bunch of bullshit and making fun of them. Because if you're not making fun of yourself, or you get offended when someone makes fun of you, but you think you just got the license to go around laughing at everybody else, then you got an ego problem. And that is the most unhealthy thing you can possibly have. And what Jocko says here is, especially laugh at yourself more than anybody or anything else. And I think that's the most important thing. And when I think about myself, there's a million things that you can make fun of me about. And I'm good with that because I'm good with myself. In fact, I will be the one to joke at my expense before I even allow anybody else to do it. Because I think it's funny. And it's okay to just have fun. It's okay to laugh. And in this world of super PC culture and everything else, it's increasingly more difficult to do that. Oh, what if I offend someone? Even if you're making fun of yourself. Oh, what if I offend this other person? And in my opinion, those people need to laugh. They need to have more fun. They need to relax. And that's why I like this passage. I think it's important to be lighthearted in life and not take everything so seriously all the time, because that'll weigh on you. And physiologically, it'll make your body produce more cortisol than you want to have in your life, especially if you're trying to live any sort of years into the future. So, I like this one as well. And it is 2 a.m. now, so I'm going to cut myself off and get a little bit of sleep. but I really did enjoy this book. I hope you enjoyed this book as well. If you do want to pick it up, you can click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to Amazon. Again, this book, I don't know if there's an audio form available, but the print edition is certainly the best form to enjoy it. It's a very short form. It's one of those books where you don't have to read several chapters and keep it going. You can read literally 2 pages. It'll take you 2 minutes, and you can put the book down and feel like you gained something. And so that's really why I like the field manual. And I like other books by Jocko and other authors as well, obviously, since I have a book club segment on this podcast. But it really is a cool format. It's semi-poetry, actually, and that's sort of the reason that I enjoy it. There's also some other stuff. I'll do a part 2 to this. There's a bunch of things about strength and conditioning and martial arts and other things inside the book as well, so I can't wait to dig into that. But until then, please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Even if you downloaded this episode, please subscribe. It would help me out a ton. And if you do get a chance to share this podcast with your friends or leave it a 5-star review, it really would mean the world to me. And that's all I got for tonight. So until next time, I'll holler at you then. Peace.
Welcome to the Nick Ingersöll Show.